may be slow, but I'm mighty.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. On behalf of the entire family, I'd like to extend our thanks and gratitude for everyone who's here this beautiful morning. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Dave Russell, and for the past 36 years, it's been my singular privilege and honor to be married to Evelyn's daughter, Leland. I'd like to start by asking you guys just to take a brief moment, close your eyes, and think about this extraordinary person. You must have incredible memories, so let's take a moment, just kind of close your eyes, and let's just kind of savor Evelyn for a moment, if we could. Thank you for that. It's a great way to help clear our minds and put us in a great mindset. By any account, Evelyn Flaaten was a remarkable woman. There's no doubt about it. Elegant, powerful, brilliant, loving. She was a force of nature who was in many ways bigger than life itself. She was a designer. She was a matchmaker, an astute businesswoman, and when it came to her family, a feisty mother. No room was immune from her presence. She was complex, refined, opinionated, and a delightfully dazzling, authentic throwback to an age long gone. As her niece Adrina Boglanian said it, she was infectiously good. I love infectiously good. Just, man, that just says it perfectly. And that truly wraps her up. She was that way. When our Lord called her home, Evelyn Flaaten was an incredible 93 years old. 93. Think about that for a minute. That's one of those numbers that isn't really, most of us can't really wrap our arms. It's like $1 trillion. 93 years. It's a really pretty remarkable. And I want to let you guys know, up until the last 3 years of her life, she was the sharpest patent drawer. She and I love to have a good debate, a good conversation, and man, she could hold her own with anybody. And how wonderful is that for her? She was our matriarch. And she was the last of her generation. And she will be missed tremendously. But can I just go back to that 93 for just a second? Honest to Pete. I want to kind of put that in perspective. She was born in 1932. 1932. Okay? My son mentioned to me she was born closer to the end of the Civil War than she was to today. Whoa! That's remarkable. That's just a remarkable thing to know. The country was 3 years into the Great Depression the year she was born. 1 in 3 men were out of work. Bread-and-Iron's labor strikes, high social unrest. Jim Crow was rampant through the South. Roosevelt was first elected. And on October 30th, 1932, in Brooklyn Hospital in Brooklyn, New York, Mary Ann Evelyn Kresick, the first of 2 children, was born to John Kresick, a Croatian machinist, and his wife, Anne. 1930 was the first year of Radio City Music Hall. Check this out, the 5th year of the Academy Awards. For those keeping track, Grand Hotel won that year. So she was born Brooklyn, New York, 1932. This is a tough time. The world was in a lot of different unrest. With the Depression being what it was, families had to do what they had to do. So her youth was actually, the first couple of 10 years, to the best of our knowledge, was spent in New York City with her family, with her aunts and with her uncles, and there's stories about her learning etiquette at dance parties that her aunts would throw. Well, this is where you stand up and, men bow, and, the whole 9 yards. And this is the beginning, this is the core, this is the seed, the kernel of the elegance that defined this woman her entire life. She knew how to do it, she knew how to do it, children. And and she was good at it. And she learned how to do that there with the dance parties that her aunt supported. The entire family was in New York. But she didn't have it as easy as we would think. She had a terrible learning disability at a day and age when learning disabled were answered with a rap on the knuckles. She was told she was stupid. She was told she couldn't learn anything further from the truth. As a former educator, I wince at the message that the school system left her. Anybody who knows her knows that she's not stupid. She's dyslexic. And had she had the proper training, and actually she did, she tells a story of a sister who sat down and taught her how to read, and how liberating that was for her to finally be able to understand the words. It was wonderful. So in New York, she had a bit of a tough deal. About 1941, things got really tough. The nation was gearing up to World War II. Jobs were very, very difficult. And her dad, who was a machinist with a great trade, decided to go. The word was out that they were going to ramp up for the war effort. So they decided to migrate to California. I don't know all the details on this, but I know a couple of highlights. I'll tell you a couple. In essence, what they did is they went from New York to California. If you've ever seen the movie The Grapes of Wrath, that's what that family did in that day and age, in real life. Although they were more prepared than the Jodes, they still were on another road, going from east to west. In Texas, she tells a story about how, remember, Jim Crow was rampant in the South. Okay, and we all know what that means. And the way that her and her family were received in Texas was the teacher of the school got all the children together to stone her. To stone her. The impact must have been incredible. But if I understand her mother, I suspect that she went home totally hurt. Her mother sat down and calmed her down and told her the story of the coat of many colors. And so we may not like there are ugly people in the world too, but God will protect you. The beginning of her deep belief and reliance on her spirituality. So they made it through Texas, through the Jim Crow. Thankfully, they kept moving to the west, finally landing in the Los Angeles area, where her dad luckily was able to find employment through the defense industry. And to her teen years, right about 1941, the beauty of what happened that I've been able to determine, once they moved to California, her parents were very concerned. Although he was able to find work and stability, it's LA. But they found safety and community with Croatians and with the Catholic community. And her parents knew that their kids would be safe in those communities, so they did everything they could, including driving up and down to San Pedro to help part of, and pardon me, the Samalas, and sorry. But it was a wonderful age. It was the war years. LA was bustling. It was the age of glamour. Red cars could get you anywhere for a nickel. Hollywood magazines were all the rage. Young women of Ellen's era. If you ever saw Judy Garland sing to Mr. Gale in 1937, that's smack dab in the middle of it. And through this time, as she was coming of age in Los Angeles during these years, she dreamed of being a performer. Because she knew that God had gifted her with a beautiful voice that people seemed to enjoy and brought her joy. It was one of her passions. As I talk about this extraordinary woman, the thing you're going to hear over again is it was one of her passions. And music and singing and entertaining was one of her passions. So here's a wonderful story. I got to tell you this one. And I'm not sure where in her travels this was. She participated in a novena. And my understanding is that it's 9 days of prayer, petitioning for a specific need or want. And my understanding is that her novena was to ask the Lord to use her gifts to enhance the world. And she prayed the novena on 9 days. And on the 9th day, check this out. This lady heard her singing. They go knocking on, excuse me, young lady, you have a beautiful voice. Well, thank you very much. Well, listen, I have somebody I want to introduce you to. Oh, I'm Rock Hudson's aunt. And I think that you should be known in Hollywood. Answer to prayer. Answer to prayer, nothing less. father, being the infinitely wise man he was, thought, let's see, 15-year-old girl, Hollywood? No. So, as difficult as it was, and she was actually offered an MGM singing contract at the age of 14. They were looking for people to be the next Judy Garland. And she was going to be part of that. Her dad said, no, I'm wiser than that. Too dangerous, not my time. Less is hard for that. But it did not squash her dreams. It did not slow her down. Through those years, she ended up being a performer. We have pictures of her singing on radio. At a point down in San Pedro, she met her dearest friend for her entire life, Vera, who was an accompanist on the piano, and together they just absolutely did wonderful things down there. Let me know if I'm doing on time. People say I should belong to that 12-step group on and on. We're getting there. Thanks. Enter the 1950s. Okay, the war was over. Everything was lost in. And in August of 1954, she married a gentleman by the name of Vince Campagna. For those of you who that voice may sound familiar, Vince was a broadcaster on KFWD for a lot of years. So he was one of the gang of six during the golden age of LA radio. But before he was on KFWD, Vince and Evelyn got married. They moved to Alaska, where she, also in answer to prayer, was able to perform in the USO. And at that time, she saved her earnings because, hey, they were living on the Army base, everything was pretty good. So she saved her money. Why? Because she is an astute lady. And nothing slows her down, nothing got in her way. If there was a mountain in her way, she'd look at it and say, can't get rid of it, I'll just go around it, no problem. And she would, she figured it out. Incredible, incredible. So while in Alaska, she performed at the USO, saved all her earnings, and before long, Vince was discharged from the Army, and they moved to Bakersfield. While in Bakersfield, they were blessed with 2 kids, my beloved wife and her brother Richard, and Vince started his broadcasting career while in Bakersfield. So while Vince was doing that, and Evelyn was watching kids, she got an idea in her head. You know, one of my passions is houses. So she went to her husband and said, I got this idea. I think I want to go get some houses and see what we can do with that. And he's like, okay, whatever. But you got to understand, this is the 50s, okay? This is a time where without a husband's approval, okay, husband had to give approval, women couldn't hold a credit, they couldn't hold a bank account, they couldn't open their own contracts. So luckily, she was blessed with a husband who trusted her emphatically. She'd come home and say, hey, look, I got this great duplex, and no. She goes, where do I sign? He'd sign it, and everything was fine. So they were in Bakersfield for a number of years, but as the times were, and not untypical for young families, things got a little difficult, which resulted in Evelyn, a single mom with 2 young kids, returning back to the Southern California region. Which was actually a blessing, because it was a time for her to do a number of things. I told you about her passions, and the time after she moved back here with kids, she was able to mature her craft and polish her elegance. She became a real estate agent, but she wasn't just any old real estate agent. The days when you walk into an empty house, she'd stage it elegantly with the finest stuff she could possibly do. She was always a top burner. She always knew what she was doing. She was a business person extraordinary. Extraordinary. So in her time back in California, she was able to practice her real estate. She learned to design her own clothes. I think she learned that from her aunts. She learned antiques because that's kind of what they did. Evelyn says that her aunts and her mom were known as the other Gabor sisters. Is that true? Other Gabor? No, that's what I remember hearing. But the elegance of her day is they would do things like take tea at Wilshire Bullocks. They went to the Golden Globes as a family of just, wonderful weddings. It was a great time. But it got better. Because shortly thereafter, somebody introduced Evelyn to a fellow by the name of Jack Flaaten. For those of you familiar with the Pasadena area, you might be familiar with beach and float and real estate? That was the floating the beach and float. And I gotta tell you what, I've known a lot of couples. I've never seen a couple as hopelessly devoted to each other as Jack and Evelyn, and that is the truth. That is the truth. So they got married in the Mad Men era, and if you've ever seen that show, you know what it was like. They were integral at beach and floating. They basically did everything they needed to, but the beauty of this phase in her life is that she was able to study and apply the glamour that she's been studying since the days in New York when her aunt showed her etiquette. She was able to apply that. Her fashion design. I've had an opportunity to get to know her a little bit better. And my daughter, and she shared a wonderful joy for beautiful stuff. So for a while there, my daughter would go over and her grandmother would show her gowns and jewelry and they would talk about this. And so we lovingly got to call the fashion that Evelyn designed and had built the Evelyn collection. And it's really elegant. She was into interior design. Her specialty was French provincial. And her house honestly looked like a museum. Here was a lady where Architectural Digest was her coffee book table. Just something else. So they together for a good number of years, from 1969 to about 2015. So a good number of years, she and Jack were unbelievable. They support each other, they were loyal to each other, they were able to survive real estate ups and downs through beach and floating. But eventually they retired and they moved down to Maryland, where they lived together for quite a while until 1911 when Evelyn lost her beloved Jack. As expected, the hole in her heart was enormous. It was very difficult for her for a long time, but she's not going to sit there and feel sorry for herself. She grieved and it became personal. So what she did is what I call the no moss years. All right, so this is where, and this, she got 79 years old, right? This lady decides, I'm going to have some dance parties at my house. I'm going to have some dinner parties at my house. I'm going to have people over. And she did. And she was amazing at it. Elegance, all the finery, all of her best china, all of her stemware, dozens of people, and she did it because she was applying her passion in life. That went on for a good number of years until, unfortunately, at the age of 91, she fell and broke her hip. And that led to a last phase of life where she would be bedridden fully for the last days of her life. But don't think that put her down. The thing about her in these last years, I honestly, I call it her golden years. And I said this to her face, I said, you have been such an inspiration to me because here you are. And the truth of the matter is, at this age, everyone you know is gone. You know, she was in bed, she was at the mercy of everybody, yet the minute you came around, she was alive and bubbly and full of joy. And this is the good stuff. She would get on and send me a text that literally would be 6 inches. You know, I'm thinking of you, I love you, you're my sweetheart, oh, you know, God, I love you. It's just incredible stuff. So the last 90 days, we knew that it was coming time. You know, the one thing that I've learned through this is the body knows how to die. It knows how to do a couple of things. It knows how to be born, it knows how to breathe, and it knows how to die. And so, as we're getting closer, signs of the end of life are getting closer and closer, and I just want to take a moment to give them out to Lilibet, all the incredible caregivers who made her days at the end more than blessed. But I got to tell you guys, she got what she wanted, and let me tell you what that was. She said at the end, I want to be surrounded by family. I don't want to go in my sleep. So we got a call They've got a call. It's getting close. She wants to talk to you here. You got to come over here. She said, give me my daughter. I need to talk to my daughter. So we went over there. And while we were there, we called our kids. They came over. We called Richard. He came up. And before long, her entire family was there around her. And we were telling great stories, and we were laughing, and I was making music in the corner, and everybody went up and had a particular moment with her, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. She saw her children getting along and laughing and supporting each other. She heard things from her grandchildren that just were life-affirming. Wonderful. And then in the middle of the night, got the call, close to the very end. Blessing is, Richard was there. He held her hand as she let out the last breath and never took another. And that was it. So in conclusion, guys, I wish you all could see what I'm seeing from up here. This congregation of peaceful, beautiful faces and varying expressions, ranging from sadness to joy. But today we're gathering together to celebrate the life and legacy of who, by any measure, was a remarkable human being. Today, we say farewell and thank you. So I want to tell you guys this story. I was going to say it earlier. I don't know if I did, pardon me. I was driving around with my family, and I had a chuckle. And this was Monday after she passed. And I was like, what are you laughing at? I said, I just have a vision of Ellen standing at the pearly gates in front of St. Peter saying, what do you mean I got in? Because she always doubted that about herself. She was always such a doubting Thomas. To which we all had a good laugh, and one of my sons turned and said, there is no better Christian than Ellen. And he's so true. So I now think back to that, and here's how I think things went. Evelyn was standing at the pearly gate. St. Peter comes up to her. She says, what do you mean I get in? To which he responds, and I'm paraphrasing Matthew 3:17, when I say, from the heavens she heard, you are my daughter, whom I love, with whom